I kind of feel like after the last video, you can tell when I'm manic and depressive. Uh, I'll let you guess which one I am right now. But here's the honey lore. So, when I was in the 3rd grade, all I wanted was to be loved. So, my parents, instead of doing the loving, they bought me a hamster. And I loved Elvis Presley. Now knowing what I know about Elvis Presley, probably would not have named him that, but I just thought I was cute and quirky, and you know what, Trisha? I did it first. So I was actually really excited to hear she was naming her kid after my firstborn hamster. So Honey was the sweetest. I mean, I would just sit there and he would lay with me for hours, and we really enjoyed each other's company. And I think I've already mentioned this in a previous video. I would play like Beethoven for him because I heard that it was really good for babies and it would make them smart. So I would do that. I would like put it on the radio and like close the door really quietly so it wouldn't wake him up. So I had a family reunion to go to in Virginia Beach in Virginia Beach. Been living down south a little too long now, I guess. And I'm one of 4 girls. My dad and my eldest sister stayed behind she must have been in 5th grade. And while the rest of us went away, it was a 3-day weekend, must have been MLK weekend. And I come back and there's something wrong. I just walk into the house and the energy is off, and they grab me and they sit me down, and I think my older sister went to go play with him and forgot to close the cage because he's never gotten out of his cage before. I would even tape down the top just to be safe, and I was going away that weekend, so I knew better. And apparently he had escaped, and we were in like a 2-level house, right? And there was a basement. Part of the house was unfinished, and I think he ended up slipping through the cracks or something, but in the basement of the house, he basically fell like 2 stories into a toilet in the basement and drowned. And my sister and dad were putting out treats for him, trying to look for him, and my dad went downstairs in the basement and found him and buried him for me, of course. So I spent the next at least month. I would go out to the backyard and just talk to him, and it really broke me. I mean, to the point I missed school for about a week, and my dad was like, oh my God, we almost got you a dog. But then after like 6 or so weeks, you just came out of it. I'm like, so if that tells you anything about my childhood. So I had to make that right. It has been eating away at me for so long. And I went to the pet store probably about 3 years ago now at this point. I must have been, 24 or something. And so this is years and years down the road. And I walk into a pet store and I see a hamster that looks identical to Elvis. And I just had this feeling, and I was like, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. So I did it. He had this big old nice enclosure, and he'd come out and he'd play in his ball. I'd make him little charcuterie boards. He truly lived his best life, and I was there all the way to the end. I don't know how he did it, but he's what, like over 100 years in hamster years, so I could just see him laying out on his cage, and his kidneys were, I think it was his kidneys that were shutting down. But he waited for me. He waited until I picked him up. I took him outside for a half hour, let him have some fresh air, took him back inside, laid with him, and I could see just his breathing getting more and more labored, and he looked up at me, and I told him I didn't need him anymore, and that I loved him, and I'd see him on the other side, and he had a couple last breaths, looked at me, and just passed away in my arms. So we both made it right, and he knew how important it was for me to be there at the end. And he passed away a couple months ago. I couldn't make a video like this without breaking down. And I know it's just a hamster. I know I'm 27. I love that thing. I loved that thing. So that's the honey lore. It's pretty sad. I'm turning 28 in about a week, and I'm kind of panicking about it. What? 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 What is it? What is it? She loves being on camera. She will not misbehave for the camera. She's the paid actor.